2 minutes for introductions. We just ask that you speak to who you are, why you're running for office, and what you would most like to accomplish during your term if elected. So if you guys have any questions for me specific about the format for now, I'll kind of cover that as we go and try and make this as easy as possible. So thank you guys. Mr. Rachford, if you'd take the microphone and we'll begin with your introduction.
We ready to go? Okay. Sure. My name is Bill Rachford. I'm the mayor here in town. I have been for the past 8 years. I think what I would like to touch on is what my priorities would be. And my first priority, I think, is to keep the city safe, maintain our quality of life. This is a nice little town in which to live, raise a family, and retire. And I'd like to keep that. And I want to keep the small town atmosphere. I like the idea we're literally 5 minutes from the countryside, so our city motto, where the city meets the country, is absolutely appropriate. Next thing I want to do is make sure that we manage our growth well, and we do a fine job of fiscally managing the city. I believe with a good finance committee, we have done that very well. I'd like to maintain that. And then the last thing, which is a topic of everybody's interest, is to work on retaining some of our businesses and attracting some new ones. And the biggest thing I can say about retaining our businesses is frequent them. Businesses leave because they don't make enough money. How many people in the room frequented the Sonic on a regular basis? Any hands? 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 100 people. It doesn't surprise me if they left. The next thing is I enjoy being mayor. It fits my personality. I am an individual that is a servant at heart. To me, being mayor is a calling. There's no logical reason why I'd put in the time that I do for the $193 a week that the position pays. So it's like going on a mission trip with your church. You go there because you want to be there. That's why I'm serving as mayor, and that's why I'm running again. I firmly believe that it is impossible. You cannot please all the people all the time. So no matter what is done, it's not going to please somebody. And the last thing I'll say is I do believe that past performance is the best predictor of future behavior. So I'll stop it right there.
Mr. Schabell.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Thank you. My name's Andy Schabell. I'm running for mayor of Alexandria. I've been on the Alexandria City Council since 2013. I live in the Summer Lake subdivision with my wife, Amanda, kids Caitlin, Brooklyn, and John. I'm excited for the opportunity to run for mayor of Alexandria. I believe that we need to, as the mayor said, we need to do something to keep the current businesses. We need to support them. That's why my flyer was printed in Alexandria, Kentucky. We need to go out of our way to bring businesses to our city that we need. We need to, what I'm going to do is form a committee. It's called the Business Retention and Development Committee, and we will actively seek out businesses that the city needs. We're going to take a hard look at the gross receipts tax. We have the highest gross receipts tax cap on US 27 from Highland Heights to Alexandria. The mayor is going to tell you tonight that there's only 3 businesses that the $25,000 cap affects, but I'm going to tell you that that's important to those 3 businesses that it affects. And it's important to everyone else below the $25,000 tax cap. Cold Springs tax cap is $1,500. Ours is $25,000. That's a big deal. We need to be welcoming to businesses. We need to do everything we can to slow down cars in subdivisions. The #1 complaint I've had over 6 years has been speeding in subdivisions. I will actively find ways to use speed calming devices where necessary. And finally, communication. We need to talk to the residents and the business owners and be open and honest about what we're doing and how we're going to do it and involve them in the process from start to finish. I'd appreciate your vote on November 6th. Thank you.
Here's our first question. What role would you play in working to attract and retain businesses in Alexandria?
All right. I believe one thing, I'm going to say it again, is gross receipts tax. I don't believe that that chased any current businesses out, but I do believe that will keep prospective businesses from coming in. It's going, I believe it could deter them. So we're going to look at the gross receipts tax. Like Mr. Simon said, I think we need a gross receipts tax. We don't need the highest gross receipts tax cap in the area. That's what we need to fix. And I don't believe we need to hire an economic developer. Campbell County has an economic development officer. We've got the ad district at NKU. That's all free and available to us. We need to utilize them. We need to work with them. And we need to figure out how to bring the businesses into our city. So the economic developer is an unneeded expense, in my opinion.
Mr. Rachford?
All right. Thank you. A lot of great ideas. It's tough to add much to this that hadn't already been said. If you'll pick up one of my flyers on the way out the door, you'll notice that I'd addressed this issue here. And one of them was the change of our annexation committee into a council business development committee. The other thing I had on there is I want to appoint a committee that is comprised of 3 successful business folks here in town, 1 member of council, and 1 citizen. Kind of ties into a number of comments looking for what our citizens are looking for. It's easy to say, why don't we have a sit-down restaurant? And Bob hit it right on the head. If you look where they are where people are there constantly. So I'll just shut up right there. Got the time. So,
and we'll move to our next question. I think since that air conditioner's kicked on, it's probably a little quiet. If you guys hold that mic up a little bit closer to that, may help. But I'm in the front, so I can hear anyways. So the city of Alexandria brings in revenue from property tax, franchise tax, payroll tax, gross receipts tax, and insurance tax. In your opinion, what is the most appropriate way to balance these taxes among residents, businesses, and employees within the city?
I think the operative word there is the balance. That's the reason we did the gross receipts tax, because we do have a very limited number of sources for tax revenue, and governments don't make anything. We don't sell anything. The only source of income that a government entity has is a tax, a fee, or a grant from someplace. We have torn that budget apart every year. Bob Simon can attest to that, so can Stacy, and in Scott, it's just not an easy process. Actually, by ordinance, if you will, our individual committees are specifically designed to have 3 members, so it's a committee and not a full council meeting. But we do have to have a balance, and when we did the gross receipts tax, we felt that was one element that we could use as a balance, because there are a lot of business owners that have businesses here, but they don't live in the city. So, and I'll be quiet.
Mr. Schabell.
All right, thank you. The mayor mentioned the gross receipts tax several times and using that to balance the budget. The gross receipts tax brought in almost $400,000 additional than what we were bringing in before with the $75 business fee. We need to balance the budget, but I don't feel that we needed $400,000 extra dollars brought into the city by taxing our businesses. Our meetings are fast, as Mr. Sparks mentioned, because we have the committees that the mayor mentioned. As mayor, I would look to open that up. I believe, as other people have said, every member of council should be in on the budget. That's one of the biggest things that we do as council members, and right now that's only open to 3 out of 6 council members at every year. So as mayor, I would look to open that up and have that at our meetings, at our council meetings, where residents can come, see what's going on, and every member of council is involved with that. Thank you.
So population growth will continue to come to Alexandria in developments like the one in Arcadia and off of Poplar Ridge. We've received several questions concerning issues that could arise specifically around infrastructure and traffic. What do you see as the city's primary concerns in regards to this growth, and what would you do now to help prepare us? Mr. Rachford.
Maybe I can shed some light on some of this to address Mr. Anderson's comment about the exit from Arcadia down onto Tollgate. That is a requirement. It will be done, probably done very soon. They're still trying to work to make it a true 4-way intersection. Whether or not that'll happen, I have no idea. Something that we're working on had a meeting just this past week, Sam and I, with the Duke Energy folks and our city engineer. We're in the process of getting together the change of the lights from whatever they are right now, the mercury vapor and what have you, to LED lights starting up here at Orchard Lane and Ensweiler and go down to where 27 and 10 intersect. I know that doesn't get all of it, but the engineer said that's the easy part. We can deal with the state there easily and get that done. Every time we talk with the state, we've met with them several times, the biggest problem with the Commonwealth of Kentucky is they do not have any money. And I'll stop right there.
Thank you. Mr. Schabell.
With our infrastructure, roads like Riley Road and Poplar Ridge, we really need to look at them and see if we can get grants to widen those roads and make them a little bit more accessible to the amount of traffic that's actually coming into them. So that would be a top priority. Also, as mentioned, the police do a fantastic job, but they're overwhelmed. We've got a heroin epidemic. There's a million things going on in the city, so they can't be in every subdivision all the time. We need to help them out by placing speed calming devices in areas that we know are problem areas. And in the past 8 years, we have removed virtually all speed calming devices in the city. I'd like to reverse that trend. I'd like to put speed calming devices where we need them. I've got 3 young children. The youngest is 6. When he's been growing up, I've always terrified that they would run out in front of a car. I don't know how anyone on our council or could sleep at night if a child gets run over or hurt in our subdivisions, and we haven't done everything we could to slow down cars.
Mr. Sparks, we'll go to our last question of the evening, and then we'll get into closing remarks time. So, last question. In your opinion, what needs to be done to expand, maintain, and promote our parks and community buildings to accommodate the citizens of Alexandria? Mr. Schabell.
Thank you. As Mr. Grouse said, we've done a lot of good things at the park. We also have added disc golf lately. We've got fins, fishing in neighborhoods where the Kentucky Fish and Wildlife comes in and stocks our lakes, and that's a good thing. I'd like to keep up. We got a dog for Christmas this year, and so I've been out to the Alexandria Park, and one thing I've heard several times is, how about a dog park in Alexandria? So I've done some research on that, and I think there's some good grants that we could get out there. I know a spot for it at the park where the old basketball courts have been. We've now got new basketball courts there. It'd be something that would be fairly cheap to set up, cheap to maintain. It would bring a lot of people in. We do Dog Day in the park now, and it's a tremendous success. So there's obviously a need for that in our city, and that would be something that would be quick, easy, and cheap to do for our residents.
Mr. Rachford.
I don't have a dog. I'm lucky. Oh, Lordy. I'm glad to see that you folks do appreciate the park. We have a very active park board. And as it's been pointed out, we have consistently over the past, at least since I've been mayor, we have consistently invested in our park with the repaving of it, the basketball court, the arrangement with Bishop Brossard for the use of the softball field. We have expanded our parking pretty much as we can in the area of the park in particular right now. A couple years ago, there was a house for sale that we bought at the intersection of Alexandria Drive and Grandview. We raised the house and cleared the ground, and that is slated for overflow parking for like the Haunted Walk, because we'll get 1,000 people at the Haunted Walk out there. Our long-term plan is to pave that parking lot. Right now, it's just the ground is clear. The Public Works crew put a sidewalk in and a ramp up into it so people can park there. So we're working on it, and it's getting better all the time.
We'll have wrap up with closing arguments. This is not a debate. I should have read the guidelines here before I got started.
Yes. Closing arguments.
Closing remarks for 2 minutes per candidate, and we'll just work our way back down from left to right the way we began.
And we've been
Mr.
so
Rachford.
good not to argue. So
That's right.
Lots of good ideas. It's interesting to hear perspective of folks who are not on council, who have ideas that are maybe a little, to some of us, sort of outside the box, which is very good. Number of things that we touched on, the traffic issue and what have you, anything that involves the State Highway Department, as Stacy can attest, is a struggle. The state has virtually no money to do anything. Unfortunately, they tend to be reactive rather than proactive. That doesn't mean that we haven't talked to them about all kinds of issues, but I've been on a number of committee and various meetings relative to connecting 536 from 71 over to the AA, and it's a long, tedious process, and everything boils around the amount of dollars to do something. So we can continue to work on it, but it's slow. One of the challenges that we do have in this city is we do not have a crossroads. We don't have a water feature. We don't have a center, a town center. And the two main roads that do go through Alexandria aren't ours. 27 is a federal highway, as I think Sue Neltner pointed out. And then Route 10 is a Kentucky state road. We've tried to do some things over in Old Town, and we're very, very limited there. There also is very limited interest on the property owners over there to do much, so that's been a challenge as long as I've been where, and I don't know if that's going to improve a whole lot. A lot of good ideas on doing things. I would like to commend Kim Wagner, who is our recreational director here. She has put together a number of programs. We challenged her when we brought her on to do things. We specifically highlighted seniors, and there are a number of various programs. They have volleyball programs, and they have yoga classes. They have a lunch on a regular basis. So there are lots of things for senior citizens, and we have had several meetings with groups regarding things to do with the youth. We met with the YMCA. That sounds good, but that's a big ticket item. I'll relinquish the microphone.
Mr. Schabell.
Thank you. Again, I'd like to ask for your support as mayor. I feel like I have to address Mayor Rachford's signs say on them in big yellow letters that he's your full-time mayor. I will be available days, nights, weekends, 365 days a year. I've got a job. I'm blessed. I've got a job. I can come and go as I please. I have availability. My work is behind me 100%. I can take phone calls while I'm at work. I can address issues. I work right in Cold Spring, so I can be here in a minute if I have to be. I can, so I want to put that, just make sure that that's out there and everyone knows that I am available. I will be available all the time. What I'd like to bring as mayor is good, effective communication between the residents and the business owners and the council. I'd like to bring new jobs and keep our existing jobs by looking at the gross receipts tax and figuring out how we can get that to where we're not bringing in an exorbitant amount of money, but we're still not having to increase our property taxes. And I'd like to look again at safer streets in our subdivisions and speed calming devices and helping our police department not have to be there all the time. So those are my goals as mayor, and I'd appreciate your vote on November 6th.